Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? President Obama, in his State of the Union address last night, took credit for a lot of miracles. One, he took credit for killing Osama bin Laden, although we've never seen the pictures of his dead body. Number two, he took credit for solving Ebola, for curing Ebola, ridding the world of Ebola in Western Africa. He took credit for a lot of things, solving the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, although many people could tell you that crisis is still going on. He also took credit for restoring freedom to Cuba. Well, folks, Cuba is far from free, believe me. The communist regime of the Castro brothers, their tyranny has lasted for over 60 years. And just recently, churches demolished and pastors arrested in the latest crackdown in Cuba. This took place when? Last week, January the 8th, 2016. Now, both of these churches are part of an apostolic movement of Jesus Christ, but it was unregistered by the Cuban government, so it was ordered to be destroyed and without warning on January the 8th of this year. Just after 4 a.m., a pre-dawn raid by police and state security agents broke down the door, handcuffed Reverend Bernardo de Quesada Solomon and his wife, and taking them to two separate prisons while the demolition took place. His wife was released around 1 p.m. that day, while the Reverend Solomon was dropped off by the state security around 3 p.m. After the church had been completely destroyed, their son was also handcuffed and held in the house during the demolishing of the open-air structure of the church. However, this time a number of other church leaders in Cuba were also detained or confined to their homes by the state security agents, presumably to stop them from going there and supporting the churches that were being demolished. Okay, so this was a well-organized attack by the communist regime in Cuba. They went around to the surrounding pastors, went in with armed guards and detained them in their own homes. Went at 4 a.m., arrested the pastor and his wife, took them to two separate prisons, and kept the son handcuffed in the house while they destroyed the church, two different churches, completely demolishing them. The church leaders in Cuba have pointed to the worrying context of these latest demolitions that's been going on. Last year, 2,000 churches were declared illegal, and so far over 100 of them have been demolished. Now, this is all since President Obama shook hands with Fidel Castro's brother Raul at Nelson Mandela's funeral. This is not being reported, folks. Obama is still leading people on to believe that somehow he has liberated Cuba. But what's happened is the greatest persecution of Christians in Cuba since the original revolution, when Castro took over this nation, destroyed Christianity, outlawed Bibles. I know missionaries who have, their goal has been to fly into Cuba and to distribute Bibles, to drop off. I know of missionaries who were in airplanes who flew over Cuba, dropping Bibles into the Cuban island and then flying out of there. Dangerous missions, okay? So this is unbelievable. If you think Cuba's been liberated, again, Obama solving the world's problems with the wave of his hand, but they're not true, okay? And as long as Christians are being slaughtered in Syria and Iraq, butchered, executed, raped, murdered, beheaded, and crucified, as long as Christians are being apprehended and turned into jihadi brides and murdered and slaughtered by Boko Haram in Nigeria and Cameroon, As long as Christians are being hacked to death in Uganda, as long as it continues, the persecution of Christians in Pakistan, and acid in the face in Pakistan and India, as long as Christians are being tortured and imprisoned in North Korea, apprehended unlawfully in China under these communist regimes, I could go on and on and on. We do not live in a fantasy fairyland. And when I stand and watch politicians giggle and laugh at the condition of the American economy and send out a message of how Cuba has been liberated, when the basic fundamentals of religion, if you're not allowed to praise the Lord, if you're not allowed to congregate and assemble, you have no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of expression, no freedom to bear arms. Welcome to communist Cuba. But why would we be in bed with the Cuban leaders? These are tyrants. These are murderers. Just ask yourself a question. A lot of times my mama told me, you're judged by the company you keep, son. And Dad would put it this way: if you run with the dogs, you're going to get fleas. Well, I think we need a fumigation in Washington because we have an infestation. Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. Pray for these pastors. Pray for these churches. Pray for these Christians who just want to worship Jesus Christ. And a lot of us Americans have that opportunity to do it, and we can't get out of bed. We can't even